authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another Reader's Magnet featured author interview. We are currently live in all of our streaming platforms YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. My name is Kimmy, and I am your host for today. And together with me right now is one of the Reader's Magnet featured authors, here to talk more about his journey as an author and the inspiration behind his book. We have Chris Cochrane, author of the book The Dingle Hopper Blueberry Belly Button Snooter. Hello, Chris. How are you today?
I'm good, Kim. How are you today?
Oh, I'm very, happy and excited to know more about you and your book as well. And I think the best way to start off this interview, Chris, is to introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at today. Um, my name is Chris Cochrane, and I'm your father of four. During the day, I'm just a average salesman. Um, Once 3 o'clock hits, I am a taxi, Uber service for my four kids, and we're going in and out until 8:30, 9 o'clock. Monday through Saturday, um, and sometimes if I find an inspiration, I try to write it down on my phone or just keep a notebook with me. And
Wow.
married to a beautiful wife since 2008. She's a nurse that's currently working on getting her family nurse practitioner degree. So she's busy doing that, and just a busy family. We love activities and love the outdoors, and we like a good story here and there. And they're my inspiration to wanting to start to write.
Wow, that's great to hear. You're a dad, you're also doing, writing, you're a great husband and all. It's really amazing how you just juggle things on different, things in life. And, being a dad or a parent doesn't really stop you in, doing your passion, which is also writing. All right. So, Chris, can you show the book to us? Your book is, do you have your book with you?
Yes, well, I have two books to show you today.
Okay.
The first one that came out beginning of this year. It's called the Dingle Hopper Blueberry Belly Button Snooter, and it's a fictional character, like an elf-like, gnome-like, dwarf-like creature. Um, doesn't really exist in the real world, but he does in our hearts, and it's about doing something without asking for anything in return, making friendships, and just being a good person to other people. And um, this particular story was just a inspiration to me, as it really just came from walking into a kid's room, and it's always messy. And when the kids aren't looking, the parents are always picking up, and whether it's myself or my wife Stephanie, who cleaned the rooms, like, I don't know who did it. Could have been the Dingle Hopper Blueberry Belly Button Snooter. And she's like, "What the
Oh.
heck is that?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I just made it up just now." Um, and she's like, "You need to write that down. At least whatever this thing that you're talking about is, you need to write it down, because man, it's catchy." And
Nice.
it came from just a funny excuse to say something funny that no one understands what it means, to it blossomed into an actual character that we've grown to love, and just cherish. When we open this
You're
book, and
right.
my kids love this story, and my oldest 13, say, yeah, 13, 11, 10, and
Mhm.
7, and my 13-year
Mhm.
old has been around since this was just a word, and just love seeing her blossom, and just her eyes sparkle. It's like, I remember this when this was just a saying. Haha. um
Right.
and so that's that book. And then I also have one that just came out towards
Mhm.
the end of October. It's called Castle Forks, and
Okay.
this isn't a children's picture book. This is actually a kind of like a fiction novel, a little bit of fantasy thrown into it. It's a father-son adventure,
Mhm.
and it really tells the story of good and evil, and the light, always fending off the darkness. And this one boy just happens to be chosen with his dad to fight in invisible army, but not in the
Mhm.
physical world that we live in, but in the spiritual world, that we can't see, but they're invited to join the fight. And it's basically inspiration on the love of what the father has for a son, and
Mhm.
that they'll do anything to sacrifice their life for their children, no matter what the cost is. Just to save them, protect them, and stand in front of them if a bullet's coming their way. And that was really an inspiration to come up with Castle Forks. Was my brother and I had a great relationship with our dad growing up, and he died fairly young, and this was kind of the adventure that I guess allowed him to ride off into the sunset. Um, in the end, with my mom, so they could still end the story together, and instead of her, in real life, being alone until death. Um, but let's see, this particular story, Castle Forks. I
Mhm.
only had two children at the time I started writing this book, and it was similar to the Dingle Hopper book.
Mhm.
If I had a thought in my head, I would just make a note on a post-it, or a little note in the notes page on my phone, and I actually wrote 90% of the Castle Forks book on my phone, just in the notes tab, just doing this
Wow.
over a couple years. And started with a little chicken scratch here and there, and then after several rounds of editing over many years, that was 2012, and here we are, 2023, and it's actually a book
Wow.
now. And there was many years of writer's block over that
Mhm.
story. It had a
Mhm.
great beginning, had a pretty good ending, but
Mhm.
had a big question mark in the middle. Like, okay, I have a really great beginning, really good
Yeah.
ending. What is the meat and potatoes of this book? And it
Mhm.
just, I did experience writer's block with that.
Mhm.
Many days and nights just trying to think about, okay, what is this adventure about? I know how I start it, I know how I end it, and then I just started thinking about the positive and negatives, that a person just feels every daily in their life. The highs and low points,
Mhm.
and then my imagination just started going. Thinking of like Lord of the Rings stories,
Yeah.
The Chronicles of Narnia series, and just my brain started just thinking like, okay, 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 this happens here. There's an adventure here. Angels and demons fighting. Okay, I could do this. And several rounds of editing later, and here we got a book.
Nice. It's
And
great. And
so far, I got some reviews coming in, very positive. They're all asking, when's the second book coming out? And I don't know yet. There
wow.
might there might not be a second book, um, but any writer could always add to the previous
Mhm.
book, because there's nothing short of a person with an imagination. I mean, there's enough bunny trails that a person's mind, goes down every single day, and you're
True.
watching and you're like, squirrel, like what?
Mhm.
And my favorite thing about writing is the ability to like share a story with somebody, and it might not be sweet and pretty all of the time,
Mhm.
but it comes from the heart. It could be funny, it could be sad, could be a little bit of seriousness into it. Um, but everybody has a story, and
Right.
um, if you don't write it down, or in like book form, or make notes about that story in the course of your life and things that you experience, when you're an old person, I mean, you're going to forget everything. And
True.
that's what I became a writer, several years ago, and now I got 2 published books. My wife told me, "It's like, you have some really funny things, but you have some things that just you need to write them down because one day you're gonna either wanna share this with somebody, and you might remember a little bit of it, but you won't remember the whole story, and then it will kinda get lost in translation."
True. Right.
And so then I started taking notes and writing everything down, and it's like now it's like, wow, I actually have a couple stories that are worth reading and sharing with
Hmm.
others, and I hope other people will take this a few minutes of just listening to heart, and it's like, you know what, I have a story to tell too, whether it's a nonfiction or fiction, fantasy, but it's something that I like and my friends like. But if I wrote this down, maybe some other people that I don't know, might like it too.
Hmm.
And it would just be a good, like a building of a community and additional friendships to come from it. So you
That's
might not
true.
know the
That's true.
person personally, but you would think that after you read one of their books, like, man, I feel like I do know this person. And
Right.
I want to learn more about this person. Like we could become a friend or something, or like, man, I don't really
Hmm.
want to become that person because of this story that they're talking about. But that's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
We can pick up
Hmm.
the books that we want to learn about, and just bypass the ones that we don't.
Absolutely. I think what I like about what you said, Chris, is that the ideas just come out of the blue and then you write it down and then you start creating stories out of it. Because I think you've mentioned that there's a lot of people who has ideas. It's just that they were not able to like put it in writing and they were not able to share it to the world. And considering that you're also doing fantasy, which is actually my favorite, my favorite genre. And I think it's what really catches the book that you wrote right now. I mean, you published Castle Fork and the other one, um, is really more of like bringing people to a different world. In a world like a lot of a lot of things probably is undermined of whatever they have to do in bills and all that and payments and whatnot. You created books that would actually bring them to a different room where they can just be themselves and probably like, create their own selves as if they are the character. And I really like that. I look forward for also reading the other one that you mentioned, the Castle Fork, as well. And I'm also very amazed, like you're a dad, you're a parent, and it really shows on your work in your works. Like what's really good with writers right now is that, especially you as a writer, you put in your heart in it, as well as your experience. Like you mentioned, you had a very good relationship with your brother and your dad, and you created book that has fantasy and experience or adventures with the father, and you're actually a very good dad right now with your kids. So you created the other book that you've also had for the children, the Dingle Hopper. So it's really amazing. So tell me, if I would ask, how would you? What was really like the best part of being a writer?
The best part about being the
Mm-hmm.
writer is I would say what does inspire the person to want to tell their story? Is it good enough to share it with yourself, or is it good enough to share it with somebody else? Because if it's not good enough to share it with yourself, like you're trying to work on a speech and you're practicing in front of the mirror. If you
Mm-hmm.
if you can't do that with yourself, then maybe it's not good enough yet to share it with somebody
Right.
else. And I think that the inspiration is to really not be afraid about what other people think. I mean, sure, there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
some, family and friends that you do value their opinion, and it may not always be positive in the beginning, just because they want you to get those kinks out before it becomes perfect. But if you're working on something and you want to deliver to somebody that you don't know, I mean, it wants it makes you want to be perfect for somebody else because they don't know you and you really have a first impression, um,
Mm-hmm.
to have a wow factor on that person that you don't know, um, to want to read more about what you have in the future. So I think
Right.
that's what inspired me was I wanted to share a story, at least in the Castle Forks book, was
Hmm.
a story of just the love and integrity and character that I admired about my dad,
Hmm.
and my brother also shared that, and I kind of wrote it for them, but I also wrote it for me so I could remember here's an adventure that I didn't get to finish with my dad
Hmm.
because he passed away early, passed away young. But this allows me to share my experience as being the kid and to show my kids like how my dad was as a father and hope that I could somehow strive, you know, to inspire them someday to be that parent for their kid and have their kid look up to them like I looked up to my father.
Wow, that's really something. And I also like when you mentioned earlier about your wife was very supportive of you. Like she told you to, write down something. You might probably forget that when you get old and all that. So it really is a foundation. Family is the foundation and really shows like how you are brought up with your parents, and you're actually helping out your kids right now, like being an Uber for them for school and all. So it's, I really feel it because I'm also a parent. So I really feel like my husband is also doing that for my kids, and it really shows that your writings, the way or your disposition in life is really important in creating, a masterpiece like this. And to conclude our interview, Chris, anything that you would like to, probably give a piece of advice for inspiring writers out there who would also like to create or produce a book?
Well, if you're trying to create or produce a book, um, first off, write your idea down. When you have that idea, like run to the other room or ask somebody for a piece of paper or a pen. Write that down. Keep that idea at least on paper so you can get back to it later. Because if you don't, I mean, you're never gonna find that exact thing that just came across your mind in that spur of the moment. And you're like always, man, what was that thing? What was that thing? It was a great idea, and it-
True.
I I could believe that many of the great writers that I fell in love with their books, like J.R.R. Tolkien. I mean, I've
Yep.
read several of his books, and C.S. Lewis, him as
Mm,
well, and I like to think that they had a notebook with them 24/7 by the nightstand or piece of paper in their back pocket. If they had a D in the hand, they had to write it down.
right.
And I would think to any person who is wanting to tell a story someday, or just has
Mm,
an amazing imagination, don't forget to
right.
write something down when you're at the spirit of the moment, because it's important. You can always come back to it later, but you need that idea at least concrete on
True.
paper.
That's correct. And I
And
also, yes, go ahead.
no, that was it. That was it.
All right, and it's also very evident on your works that you're inspired with this amazing writers, fantasy writers, and people who, or writers, always say authors who created such great books. And right now you're doing your own, and I'm also looking forward for people to be inspired by your works, as they be able to grab a copy of your books. You can actually show your books right now, Chris, and you can also invite our viewers to get a grab a copy. So there.
Sorry, this screen right here isn't the best. I'm trying to, okay, here we go. So Castle Forks and the Dingle Hopper Blueberry Belly Button Snooter. They are available, obviously, Amazon and Barnes and Noble websites, as well as my personal author website, ccochranebooks.com. Also, Young Bookworms in Colorado Springs, little children's bookstore. It's an amazing place. My book, the Dingle Hopper, is on the shelf there and soon to be Castle Forks, as well as Toy Box in Eureka, California. It's actually physically on the shelf. If you want a copy, go ahead to there. In the near future, grab a copy. And also on my books, they will be available in the next couple months at some local book fairs. If you guys are in the London in March, I will personally be there to sign a book copy for you.
Wow.
So get your copy there, as well as the LA Times Festival books coming out in April. I will be there as well to sign up either the Dinglehopper book or Castle Forks. Be happy to see you guys and answer any questions you guys may have when I see you there in the next couple months.
Wow, amazing. So we look forward to see you in person, Chris, in London Book Fair, as well as in LA Times, right, for next year. So there's a lot
Yes.
that is stored for you next year with Readers Magnet, and we're really happy to have you here. So everyone, that's Chris Cochrane, author of the book The Dinglehopper Blueberry Belly Button Snooter and Castle Forks. Okay, the other one. All right, there. You may grab a copy, as what Chris mentioned. It's Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Also on his personal email. I'm sorry, personal website at C Cochrane Books. Is that it? Okay, .com. And there's a lot as well. And you can also be able to have him see you in person and sign as well the books. That's in London Book Fair as well as in LA Times. Again, thank you so much for your time, Chris. We really appreciate it. And as we say here at Readers Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris, for your time.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you everybody for listening. Hope to meet you in the future. Have a good
All
day.
right. Have a good one.